What the shit? I mean, Jesus. I mean, well, I tried to. I gave it a shot. I admit, I wasn't uber excited to play this, but I definitely didn't expect that. I thought, I'll probably just get a piece of shit COD clone with, a little bit more on the realistic side. But, with an ultra cliched, heavily scripted story, and, actually that would have been okay, But this? I mean, shit, honestly, I was about to write a letter for the developers with a title that says, are you fucking serious? I mean, it's not just about the story or the gameplay, it actually has a couple of bugs and glitches, nothing terrible by the way, which is cool, I mean, it doesn't make the game unplayable, but it makes the game noticeably harder, especially later on. But, it's definitely enough to make you, to drive you insane. And, I mean, definitely, I'm using that word quite a lot. I gotta look something up in the fucking dictionary. But anyway, let's go back to the actual review. Don't expect it to be long, because other than bitching about the game for hours, I can't really do anything else, and that's pointless in my opinion. But trust me, and I promise you that I'm gonna do my best. So, first things first. I gotta tell you that I haven't even played Battlefield 3 yet. I'm planning, but I saw some gameplay videos and I know the basic story and stuff like that. And, I gotta tell you that it was much better than this piece of shit. Now, as you probably figured out already, Battlefield 4 is a direct sequel to Battlefield 3. It takes place in 2020, 6 years after what... I guess it's six years after the previous game, and it's something like... Because, frankly, I didn't really get exactly what's going on, even after playing through it, but it's something like that. There's a heavy tension between Russia and the USA, and it's running really high because of the events of what happened in the previous game, Battlefield 3. But what makes it even worse is that on top of all of this, the Chinese Admiral Chang or something like that, who you don't actually meet throughout the game, or at least I just didn't get it, he plans to overthrow the current Chinese government, and basically he wants to support the Russians in the war, actually bringing China into the war. And it sucks. Yeah, obviously the US don't want that. Now the player controls Sergeant Daniel. I guess it's Daniel Recker, who's member of the Spec Ops squad team called Tombstone. Yeah. Basically there are 3 major maps or missions or episodes or acts or whatever. Fuck. The first one is in Baku, the second one is in Shanghai, and the third one plays on the Chinese sea, on the USS Valkyrie, which is a ship. And basically the whole thing is about trying to prevent China to get into war. And that's it. Well, it's not, if you play through it, actually it's not that bad, It's got and it's more like an average, you only watch once and you forget about it the next day, average Hollywood military action movie kind of feel. Yeah, shit like that. The gameplay itself is just the typical military action shooter. Yeah, you just grab or take or shoot whatever that's pointed out in main objectives, and that's it. Sadly, it's true, but yeah. Well, of course there are a couple of other things worth mentioning, because although it's, basically it's not that typical mindless action shooter where you just, that's Doom 3. But, anyway, you can give orders to your squad members, which is real cool. It has more like, it gives the game more like a real-time tactical action shooter kind of thing, but unfortunately it's just pressing a fucking button over and over again and wait for your squad members, to kill all the enemy out there, and that's it. Besides the tanks and the helicopters, of course, because they aren't that clever, to say the least. Besides the ending, the whole thing is terribly scripted, because the whole story, the whole thing is heavily scripted. That goes to the gameplay as well, it unfortunately, it makes the whole game feel terribly linear. It affects the whole gameplay experience, you know what I mean? It's these games which, you only play once, struggle through the gameplay. The single player, although they look and feel somewhat cool, it's just, you just struggle through it, and you hate it every single moment of it. And it's the same thing here. It's more like an interactive movie. You just press a few fucking buttons. That's it, There are some parts of the game, of course, in-game cutscenes. I guess they call it that. It's because, which again, they are heavily predictable, it's gonna come. But, these things supposed to, increase the tension, the dynamics of the whole fucking game, supposed to increase the drama, but again, these are heavily predictable. It almost makes the game, the whole thing pathetic, There were some parts where I was like, oh, here it goes, and it's at some points, I didn't know, if I should laugh or cry or whatever, I was like, some point, I was like, fuck, not again. And some point I was like, laughing my ass off, because it's terrible, heavily predictable, terrible, linear, heavily cliched, extremely scripted, fucking piece of shit. Average, interactive action shooter. It's like. Oh, and by the way, I fucking hate the entire series, or everyone who's ever played it, or even thought about it. I don't care what you think. Ciao. Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna give it 4 out of 10. I don't care what you think. Sue me, you fucking piece.